For eons we drifted in the void between worlds. We observed and charted, we wandered. We stripped what we needed from worlds with only the most basic and minor flora and fauna for what we needed to keep our ships and crews. We studied the stars and continued to persist. There had to be others like us in the universe. We had escaped the cradle of life and found the cold indifference of the galaxy to be crushing. Many of our friends and family members settled into the grim task of charting star after star, discovering the silence and lack of life to be soul-crushing. We discovered worlds made of precious materials we could never have manufactured ourselves, and from these we learned to build more enduring ships. Our military atrophied and slowly became integrated with our deep space exploration fleets. Eventually our people became scattered and disparate, and over the years we migrated back to our home star system. We resettled the world with new knowledge. Our fleets were dismantled and the materials repurposed. We reseeded life back onto our toxic world that we had destroyed once. We gave it a new life. We discovered no life in the void beyond mindless animals. And even then, when checked upon thousands of years later, we discovered some worlds lost. Some were the same, as if we had only visited them a mere few hours ago. None had evolved new life. And thus, we waited. And we hoped. And we passed into the void ourselves. Message retrieved from the ruins of Sol 3's only remaining and active city, maintained by failing autonomous caretaker devices. The holo-projector powered down as the Alari teacher turned the lights back on within her classroom. Our first contact with the humans was the discovery of their ancient homeworld of Sol 3, or Earth as they called it in their language. The sleepy classroom full of students groaned quietly. Every member of the Alari Consortium's population knew about the discovery of Sol 3. It was the largest find in the Consortium's entire history.
Can anyone in the class tell me why the finding of Sol 3 was so significant?
The woman looked across the classroom of students. Over 100 children between the ages of 16 and 18 were present. A diverse range of skin tones and colored clothing, denoting their chosen professions among the Consortium's busy and bursting society. Towards the middle of the class, 6 rows back, a young woman wearing the olive drab skin suit of the military arm of the Consortium, stood up and waited to be acknowledged.
Yes, Tessa. Please, what's the significance of Sol 3 to us?
There was a pause as the blonde-haired student, Tessa, reached up to brush her hair back over a distinct pair of elven ears, as her almond-shaped blue eyes ran over the writing still projected in the air, though dimmer now in the light. It took her a moment to gather her thoughts and order them calmly before she spoke.
We discovered that Sol 3 was the cradle from which our people left, and after checking our history and determining that the dark age of disinformation, that we are all that remains of the humans after our fleet was cut off from the others 5,000 years ago and crash-landed here, on Alari Prime.
The teacher grinned.
At least one of you has potential, apparently. Yes, we are humans. We found Sol 3, the only planet in this galaxy to have still intact ruins of any form upon, and discovered that we are still quite alone in the galaxy. But we recovered the lost history of our people, and unlike our ancestors who grew weary and eventually entropic, we still flourish because we evolved separately and advanced in order to dominate our arm of the galaxy, and we're still expanding. Sadly, it would seem that we, much like the humans we've descended from, are the only sapient species in the galaxy. What's the other, slightly more important significance of Sol 3's discovery?
The teacher's eyes swept across the class as a lone student towards the far back of the class stood. Unlike the others, he wore a muted gray skin suit with silver and black edges around the cuffs and collar, and a similarly styled cape around his shoulders, denoting his loyalty.
Why, that's easy, teacher, the formation of the Holy Savanti Imperium. Based upon the holy teachings and scriptures of our king priest's reassurances that God's divine mandate that this is his gift unto us, our return to the Garden of Eden, and that we should remove the heathens from among us and spread, flourish and harvest its resources for our Lord's glory.
A few others, wearing the same cut of suit but similarly color-coded and cloaked, rose a muted amen. The teacher merely sighed softly.
Yes, thank you, Stepanus.
Prince Stepanus, my far.
The student was quickly and swiftly cut off once more by the teacher as her voice lifted half an octave.
Thank you. Be seated so I can continue, please. This is a school, and we're all equals here, from the laborers to the children of executives and even your nobility in the Imperium. All students receive the same education here, unfiltered and without bias.
Stefanus reclaimed his seat indignantly and visibly fuming as he stared at the teacher while she continued her lessons. When he became emperor, he would have her sent to a labor mine, and this abomination of a school obliterated from the border zone between his empire and the fools of the consortium. The teacher watched the boy sit back down and inwardly cringed. Parent-teacher night would be yet another nightmare when his father arrived, demanding she be stripped of her license and sent to a labor prison world for daring insult his child. She mentally reminded her personal assistant to log the interaction in preparation for the event as she stepped from her podium and moved to a center point in the middle of the class.
Recently a change has been made that has been approved by both the consortium and the Empire's leaders, and the full release of classified information has already begun.
She banished the floating holotext, and instead a picture of a lone human girl the same equivalent age as the rest of the children filled the air.
Starting today, we've begun the slow process of awakening the ancients, found within data vaults deep in the human city on Sol 3. Most of the leaders and extended families placed themselves in long-term data vaults, along with a substantial portion of the city's population, and instructions on how to repair and restart their bioreactors within the city. I would like you all to welcome Ilyana Annabella Trelis to our class.
The class all stood in surprise and looked over their desks to watch a dark-haired, olive-skinned human girl walk into the class from the side door. The school's dean wasn't far behind, and neither was the CEO of the Alari Consortium and the king priest of the Savanti Imperium. The girl stopped to the side of the teacher and turned to sweep her own blue eyes across the classroom full of elves and opened her mouth to speak.
Synthetic life forms are an abomination in God's eyes.
Stefanus roared from his spot in the classroom. You could have heard a pin drop in the room as the Savanti Emperor merely chuckled, not deigning to correct his child, as the CEO of the Alari Consortium's eyes widened at the massive insult he had just heard hurled at the first, and currently oldest human, that had emerged from Sol 3's rebuilt city. Ilyana lifted a hand and cleared her throat to speak.
Then I would merely suggest you think very hard about what you just said in relation to who you're talking to. My people created yours and your misguided religion.
Fully half the class was stunned silent, the other half chuckled. Both Stefanus and the king priest or emperor or whatever they called the guy, colored myriad shades of red and purple in both rage and shame. To Ilyana this was likely about to cause a disturbance, her mother would once again remind her, was against their best interests. Ilyana herself merely managed a small smile, with a touch of smugness and human superiority mixed in. And here I thought, my first day of school would be boring. So far half the class loves me, and the other half thinks I'm a monster. Can't wait until they find out that they are right about the monster part. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description.